We'll start with you, Matt, since you just took off your glasses and you look so serious here. Step on Carol's toes and tell us what you think of the market today.
You know what? I was not surprised that we saw the market turn a little bit lower. We got the initial jobless claims that were bang in line, but revisions added another 1,000 people to the dole. So we're seeing these revisions. We saw yesterday another 818,000 added or taken away in terms of jobs from the year through March to the downside. So the economy is looking a little bit weaker, but not so much weaker that we're going to get 50 basis points. And I think that's what the market's a little bit disappointed about today.
Can we just rip off the Powell, Band-Aid and just get through it and let's see what he has to say? Or if he doesn't, he's probably going to do, right, Scarlett, this really great Fed dance and balance that he has become really good at.
Yeah, he's not going to say anything to disrupt the markets, and he's not going to change his tune in one speech. I liked what I read in a note earlier, which is higher for longer is going to turn to slower to lower.
Slower to lower. Oh, man, that's going to hurt my head a little bit there. But, guys, I got to say, you look at the markets, it's the chips, it's the semis that are getting hit. That has nothing to do with what Fed Chair Jay Powell is going to say tomorrow.
All right, well, maybe we can get Tom Keene to take Powell out to the Pioneer Grill, get him liquored up here, and maybe he'll say something of significance tomorrow. Meanwhile, for today, a bit of market repositioning, erasing most of the gains that we have seen over the past few sessions here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish the day down by about 0.4%. And we should point out that's basically your outperformer on the day amongst the major indices. The S&P 500 down 0.9%. The NASDAQ Composite down about 1.7%. And the Russell 2000 is going to close the day down by about 21 points or 1% on the day.
All right, guys, we've got into it crossing the Bloomberg terminal. Fourth quarter net revenue, slight beat, $3.18 billion versus an estimate of $3.09 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS, folks, also better than forecast, $1.99 versus an estimate of $1.85. The outlook, the company saying it sees 2025 revenue of $18.16 billion to $18.35 billion. That is above, at least the high end, above the estimate of $17 billion. And then also sees first quarter adjusted EPS of $2.33 a share to $2.38. That is below the estimate of $2.80. And you've got shares of Intuit, guys, down about 2.3% here in the aftermarket.
All right, we'll continue to keep an eye on how that stock moves. In the meantime, let's just go back to what we saw today in the cash market, because it was kind of a steady decline in price action for the S&P and the major indexes. And when you look at the sector performances, you really have some asymmetry when it comes to the groups that declined. Tech stocks losing 2% on the day, consumer discretionary losing 1.9%.
All right, we're looking at Ross Stores also coming across the wire with earnings. EPS in the second quarter, $1.59. That beats the estimate for $1.49. So it looks like, at least on the bottom line, Ross is doing better than expected. It's interesting, we have seen some companies come out today, Peloton, for example,
right,
that did better in terms of margins, but weren't able to move the needle at all on the top line. And that actually has helped Peloton stock. We'll see how these Ross estimates come in, because so far we've only got the EPS out. I got to comb through the release to look for the sales.
Well, it's versus $1. Yeah, you're right. Just got that number versus $1.32 a year ago, and estimate of $1.49. It looks like sales $5.29 billion, and that's up about 7.1% from the year before. Estimate is $5.25 billion, so a little bit more coming out here.
All right, I'm taking a look at Workday here. So it's a cloud company. Taking a look at adjusted earnings coming in about $1.75. That is a beat. You're also revenue up 17% year on year, coming in at $2.09 billion. That also beat subscription revenue up 17%, professional services revenue up 12%, and the backlog looks relatively solid as well.
Yeah, interesting too. They're also announcing a partnership here with Equifax here. So you talk about a company that really has started to expand, or at least try to expand its base of operations, and at least that's paying off. It looks like, at least based on these numbers, on the margins already, definitely a beat there on an adjusted basis, 24.9%.
Yeah, and they're also saying that they're slightly raising their expectations for 2025 non-GAAP operating margin, as Romaine was saying, expanding really in North America as well. Impressive, too, because customers have been shifting their IT budget to AI products versus the kind of cloud products that Workday might offer. So solid beat potentially on that end.
All right, guys, we're going to go back to some of the individual movers as we continue to track some of the earnings coming out here. Peloton Interactive, man, up 35% here, surging off the charts here. The company came out, reported earnings that beat analyst estimates. They are kind of signaling maybe that their turnaround efforts are starting to bear fruit. We talked with our Mark Gurman, and he was a little surprised at why this is so upbeat. And, you know, we're going to have to see what happens with this company going forward. Keep in mind, it is way down from its January 2021 high.
167 was the high, right?
I know. It's down like 97% from that. So a long way from what that company was, certainly, and when it was a pandemic darling. Zoom, we talked about the earnings after the close yesterday, finishing the day just shy of a 13% gain, surging the most in more than 1.5 years. Company reported second quarter results. That was a beat, raised its full year forecast, talked about new AI and contact centers products continuing to deliver. We did also get news that the company said the CFO would resign. Nothing seems to be a disagreement with the company, and they have begun a search for the successor. And Paramount Global, the story that keeps on giving. We continue to see, we know we got some news yesterday after the close about Edgar Bronfman raising his offer. So Paramount, once again, building on the gains of yesterday of about 1.4%, up another 0.8% here, Matt.
All right, Alex, to your point, that it's the chips that are down today, and certainly NVIDIA is leading us down in the S&P 500. Intel had a very bad day. They had a director, Lip-Bu Tan, who was brought in years ago to help turn the company around. He was named to the board in 2022. He was on the M&A committee. Well, he's out of there, at least according to people familiar with the situation. Intel has declined to comment. Tom didn't respond to a request for comment. In any case, you can see those shares right now down more than 6% at the close. Advanced Auto Parts, much smaller company, much bigger loss. The shares were off almost a fifth, I think. If you look at Advanced Auto Parts, the plunge was the most since May of 2023. There you see, 18%. It slashed its annual profit forecasts by more than analysts expected. Also, you may have seen that Carlyle came in and bought its Worldpac unit. That's the OEM parts sales unit. Carlyle spent $1.5 billion for that. Snowflake shares fell as well. The software maker reported its second quarter results and gave an outlook that didn't necessarily miss. In fact, the results beat on a couple of key metrics, but analysts are worried about product revenue and the gross margin forecasts. And then Urban Outfitters. I didnn't even know it was still a store.
It's still a store.
It's a super hot store.
Okay,
by the way.
Still a super. All right. Anyway,
wait till your daughters get older, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All right. So
they own Anthropologie, if that helps any.
Anthropologie. My mom loves it. You know, Free
Good
People.
candle.
She
Really
loves
good
that
candle.
store as well. Quarterly sales growth was less than Wall Street expected. 2% was what they posted on comp sales. The street was only looking for 3%, but they couldn't hit it. And as a result, the stock is down. Executives on a call today were saying they may have to add more promotions. They may have to add markdowns. So you can take your kids to Urban Outfitters. I'll take my mom to Free People, and we'll get them some stuff for cheaper.
Hey, I only shop on sale, so you're speaking my language right now. I'm taking a look at the bond market. You definitely had a sell-off across the curve, particularly in the front end. You got 2-year yields up by about 8 basis points. Also, guys, looking at money market funds yet again, hitting another record high. Again, you got $6.24 trillion. Does that actually belong anywhere? And does it belong to the bond market? Does it belong to the equity market? Or does it stay there?
All right, we go back to some of the earnings crossing the wire. I mean, we're just talking about Ross Stores, so those shares higher on the day by about 5% in after-hours trading. Meanwhile, Workday still remains in the red, although we are learning that the company did authorize a buyback of about $1 billion worth of shares. That did pare some of the losses here in the after-hours trade, but you can see Workday still down about 2%.
Yeah, and you've got Intuit, right? Also coming out, their board approving a new $3 billion share buyback authorization. You've got shares of Intuit in the after hours up about 2.4%. So a little bit of a different trade for those guys.
I'm sorry, can we talk about these new Crocs stiletto shoes?
Because you love Crocs, don't you?
Are they called Hey Dudes?
Hey Dudes.
Stiletto shoes? Crocs? Stiletto?
Yes, put a picture of these shoes. Well, those aren't them. You got to Carol, explain this to the people.
Well, actually, what's really interesting is Matt Miller actually brought this to my attention.
Matt
and
Whiteseas?
I think it's because Sydney Sweeney is in the story.
My favorite actress.
Gotcha. Okay.
She is like, what do you get?
Careful.
Yeah,
Golden
Matt.
Globe.
Just
On air,
cut Matt
on air.
off, please. Who knows where he's
wait,
going?
they have heels like stiletto heels?
Yeah, do we not have a photo of this thing?
I'm looking for these
anyway,
pictures.
Apparently we don't. Anyway, there's a great story on the system. A new pair of Crocs. This is under the Hey Dude brand, but it's stiletto heels.
I haven't seen
and
the
you have to see them
stilettos.
to believe them. but
I've only
apparently we
seen
can't see them now.
the Hey Dude brand shoes that Sydney is repping, my girl Sydney, those are like Toms. They're like sort of hippie dude surfer shoes.
Or old man shoes.
Yes.
Or that.
Sorry.
Yes.
I
I see
seen
what
the
this
stilettos.
is. I get you. I would totally wear those.
The Crocs stilettos,
No.
right?
I would. I would totally do it.
No, those are not a good look.
Wait.
I don't know. They're kind of fun.
Wait, now I got to pull them up. Totally would wear them.
Right?
Are we really
Totally
missing this
wear
chance
them.
to put Sydney Sweeney
Oh my God.
video
Yeah,
up?
we
not have-
blew this. We could have shown Sydney Sweeney. We could have shown these ugly Crocs.
Balenciaga.
We could have let Matt just, bury himself with whatever he was going to say about Sydney.
When I show these
Yeah.
to Matt, you
Yeah.
know he's going to be all in.
She's into cars, so she designed her own Mustang, she designed her own Bronco. I actually know about her because Jim Farley told me about her from Ford.
All right, to be
Wow.
There you
to
go.
be continued, guys. Okay.